Welcome to Casa Belvedere, benvenuti, which is welcome in Italian. My name is James Paone. I am the Vice President of Operations here, as well as programming. We're located here on Staten Island, 79 Howard Avenue on Grimes Hill, and I'm so happy to have you here on this beautiful day. Thank goodness the rain has stopped and we have beautiful sunshine. We are a landmark historic building, but we are also a cultural center here as well as a private dining club. Casa Belvedere was established back in 2008, 2009, and it was purchased by our founder, Gina Biancardi, who happens to be my wife, and she basically purchased the property and established a non-for-profit, the Italian Cultural Foundation at Casa Belvedere, and donated it to the foundation. She was in the Italian-American community for many years, and in high school and college, she was very active in establishing clubs and things and promoting the Italian culture. So this was a dream of hers. Our children, Gina's 3 girls and my 2 girls, all went to Notre Dame across the street. So I would see her there with her children, and I would be dropping off my children, and her dream, she would look over here at this dilapidated building, because at the time it was basically falling apart, and she would dream of converting it to an Italian Cultural Foundation. As fate had it, she was very successful in a business with her first husband, and they were fortunate enough to be able to purchase this house and kind of fulfill her dreams of establishing an Italian Cultural Foundation. If she knew what she was in for at that time, she never would have done it. She has almost abandoned this project a dozen times. So, and when I was with her, maybe 10 times. And I would encourage her to keep the faith, look how much we've accomplished, and we need to push on. So initially, this floor here was basically started to be open to the public. It did not look like what it looks like now, but we were able to open at the time there. And slowly, through different phases, we were able to renovate and make it accessible to the public, which is a huge feat, because when you convert a private home to a facility that welcomes the public, there are a lot of requirements as far as fire safety, ADA access, things of that sort. So slowly and surely, we kind of made our way through the renovation process. So basically, this floor was renovated first, and then the lower floor was renovated, and then the upper floors were fairly recently renovated, and our last phase, at least I thought it was the last phase until we have a 10-year plan down the road, but you'll see that in the presentation, was the outdoor landscaping. Because this is a landmark building, basically the landmarks governs what we can do outside. And it's fairly unusual that all 4 sides of this building are landmarked. So usually they'll landmark the facade of the building, saying that, you know, any passerby it shouldn't change, you know, to a certain extent it shouldn't change. We have all 4 sides, so we're restricted as far as what we can do. There was an addition, and you'll see that on the presentation, that was fairly recently put onto the house, and of course that had to be approved by Landmark. And what that is an elevator stair tower, which makes this building ADA accessible both downstairs and all the way upstairs. So right now you're on the main floor. We have a lower level, which was your typical basement. So basically it was all cement. It was a huge, huge furnace down there that took up most of that space. Obviously, that was removed, and everything had been upgraded to what we currently have as far as heating and air conditioning. We have the latest and greatest system where we can control both the heat and air conditioning. So then we have then the second floor was originally the bedrooms for the occupants of the house here. And then we have even a third floor, which was for the servants. So on the census back in 1908 or the early 1900s, there were more servants registered here than occupants. So you'll see when we go in the back there's what we call the cottage. It was the original kind of barn, and back in 1908, where you still had horses and cars. One side of that building was for the car, the other side was for the horse, and they actually kept a cow underneath for fresh milk for the family here. And I think I wanted to introduce Lou Barella. It's kind of difficult to see him there. He is our educator and lecturer here at Casa Belvedere. Lou, how many years have you been an educator?
50.
50? Are you cheating? Maybe.
Teachers will be teachers forever. So those of you who know the profession. I wanted to jump in because at some point we will go up to the third floor, and a portion of the third floor was generously donated to us to create the Caruso Gallery. Very briefly, so that when you go up and you start to ooh and ah, you understand. The Caruso Gallery is a very small piece of what used to be the Enrico Caruso Museum in Brooklyn. That museum was in the Sheepshead Bay Midwood area, developed by Aldo Mancusi. Some of you know that facility. Aldo developed this collection of memorabilia and recordings, and even the machines to play those recordings over a 40-year period. He was internationally known for what he did. And unfortunately, he always wanted to move the complete collection to a location in Manhattan where there would be more foot traffic for him, but that never transpired. So in the last year of his life, he and his daughter decided to distribute, break up the collection, and give it to locations that were willing to permanently exhibit it, not archive it. So we have some of the best pieces that came out of the Brooklyn Museum. It was on East 19th Street between Avenue T and Avenue S. So it's in a residential home. But we have a small area, and when you get upstairs, you'll see there's a long corridor that leads into the actual room that has some of this great memorabilia. So I'll see you a little later on that.
Thank you, Lou. All right. So we have a presentation that we developed in preparation for our gala that we had here not too long ago, and we had Mario Andretti here. We were honoring him for all his work that he's done in the Italian American community, but we had an audience of 350 people, and we thought it would be great to kind of showcase some of the history and what we've done in the past 15 years. We're celebrating 15 years of Casa Belvedere being open and established to the public, and this was a presentation that we put together.
What began as a crumbling relic on the verge of collapse, earmarked for overdevelopment, now stands as a lasting tribute to the past, a gift to the present, and a lasting legacy for generations to come. The crown jewel of Grimes Hill. With sweeping, unobstructed views of the Verrazano Bridge and New York Harbor. And to think this vibrant cultural haven, this monument dedicated to our ancestors, all began with a single dream and an unwavering belief that it was worth saving, a place meant to bring people together. Honoring those whose belief in this vision made it possible, founding charter members, founding benefactors, legacy philanthropists, legacy builders, ambassadors, and emissaries. Your generosity built more than a cultural center, it built a legacy. The story began over a century ago when this neo-Renaissance Italianate-style grand mansion and sprawling 3-acre estate was custom-built in 1908 for German immigrants Louis A. Steern and Laura Roebling Steern. Louis was a prominent silk merchant, Laura the granddaughter of Brooklyn Bridge engineer John Roebling. Together, they raised 4 children while deeply engaged in Staten Island's early social and cultural life. The Landmarks Preservation Commission describes the Steern Mansion as, quote, a premier example of early 20th century country house design, one of the few surviving of its kind in all of New York City. But by 2008, the grand estate stood silent, abandoned, and forgotten. Nature began to reclaim it. Ivy crept up its walls. Cracks scarred its once proud facade. Time wore away at the stucco, the columns, the terraces, and silence settled in where laughter and life once echoed. Though protected as a New York City landmark and listed on the National Register of Historic Places, the mansion had fallen into demolition by neglect. In 2005, city planners approved a proposal to carve up the estate into multiple luxury homes, its fate all but sealed. Until destiny took a different turn, when visionary Gina Biancardi purchased the mansion with the intention to rescue, revitalize, and repurpose it as an Italian cultural center. Biancardi fulfilled her vision, establishing Casa Belvedere, the Italian Cultural Foundation, as a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. And in 2010, she donated the mansion to the newly formed not-for-profit, marking the first step in what would become a 15-year, $5 million transformation journey. Going from a private home to a public cultural institution in a residential area was a long and arduous process, navigating permits, zoning, and several agency approvals. Meanwhile, crucial work awaited. Demolition began, removing an old coal furnace, followed by asbestos abatement, and general cleanup of decades of debris buried underground. To bring the building up to public code, major infrastructure upgrades were needed. Electric, plumbing, and mechanical systems all had to be redone from the ground up. Also, state-of-the-art fire and safety systems had to be installed throughout the building. But this was just scratching the surface. The transformation was never simple. It was complicated, meticulous, with many skilled laborers working with extraordinary care and craftsmanship to rebuild and restore. From neglect and faded grandeur to dazzling museum-quality restoration. Foyer before, foyer after. Dining room before, dining room after. Gold room before, gold room after. Elsewhere in the mansion, a humble galley kitchen and empty adjoining room were completely reinvented as a state-of-the-art teaching kitchen. Cucina Colavita, a space to celebrate, preserve, and pass on Italy's rich culinary traditions. Today, numerous cooking classes are held here for both children and adults. Mrs. Steern's legacy, a radiant revival rooted in history. This octagonal conservatory had lost its radiance when French doors were replaced with standard windows, blocking natural light from entering. The space had to be completely reconstructed inside and out, including the gracefully arched floor-to-ceiling doors and windows. Curved facade and trellis work lovingly brought back to their original elegance, reclaiming Mrs. Steern's vision of a radiant retreat for her rare and exotic plants. It stands timeless, graceful, and regal, even after all these years. This journey was more than about saving an historic treasure. It was about honoring its spirit. Across the main level, floor-to-ceiling arched doors and windows, and marbles surround fireplaces, rebuilt from scratch. Pocket doors glide once more, gold leaf accents, coffered ceilings, and stained glass motifs shine again. Every inch of arts and crafts woodwork, every Tiffany-tiled hearth, every forgotten flourish, all awakened. Here, the past doesn't whisper, it speaks. A once dark, low-ceiling basement was ready for repurposing. We began by breaking through the exterior foundation wall and excavating, followed by installing walls, floors, and infrastructure, creating usable space and marking a new chapter. Baco was born in 2017. Outside Baco, the entryway was an eyesore, cracked stucco, marred masonry, and uneven ground. Now, a beautiful side patio and welcoming entrance. Just steps away are bocce courts and community joy. Stabilizing the mansion, the upper floors. Years of water intrusion had caused widespread mold and rot, collapsed roof rafters, and structural instability. A full gut renovation wasn't a choice, it was the only way to save the mansion. Joist by joist, beam by beam, we rebuilt to code, all with care. Stabilizing the building's bones and repurposing the mansion's original 12 bedrooms to open, multifunctional space, ready to educate, engage, and inspire generations to come. Perhaps what told the loudest story of abandonment and decay was the building's exterior. From failing stucco and masonry, to iconic columns stripped of their capitals, rusted railings, compromised Juliet balconies, rotted woodwork, gaping holes in the roof tiles, unsalvageable windows, compromised parapet walls, discolored marble stairs, and crumbling chimneys. It took countless hands, but every architectural element was painstakingly refurbished, restored, or rebuilt. Transforming the Stearn Mansion into Casa Belvedere was a true labor of love, fueled by millions raised in government grants. Among the most ambitious projects, a New York City-funded $2 million stair, tower, and elevator extension, seamlessly integrated to the building's architecture. Casa Belvedere is now fully ADA accessible, with an elevator stair tower extension that runs from Baco to the third floor, plus ADA-compliant ramps, restrooms, and pathways, ensuring that everyone is welcome, always. Inspired by the backyard traditions of so many nonos before us, figs, tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, herbs, and more grow in this community garden, nurtured by a dedicated group of volunteers' hands and hearts. To complement Nono's garden, a paved learning pavilion was added, a gathering space for environmental education, hands-on programs, and meaningful moments between generations. Just steps away, a breathtaking lower terrace. But creating this serene space in a hillside preservation zone was no small feat either. Today, the lower terrace is yet another welcoming space for culture, conversation, and connection at Casa. Most people simply call it Casa because to so many it feels exactly like that, a beloved home away from home, where Italian arts, music, horticulture, film, dance, creativity, and community connect. What's next? Introducing a $5 million campus expansion to include eco-friendly parking, the Verrazano Vista Pavilion, a 4,000 square foot expanded lower terrace with a cutting-edge hydroponic learning lab beneath, plus New York City's first nonprofit educational vineyard. These visionary enhancements will uplift civic life, elevate Staten Island's image, and further enhance New York City's legacy as a global capital of culture and community. Join us. Be part of something extraordinary. Naming opportunities available. Call or email founder Gina Biancardi. Grazie mille.
Just when I thought I was done, we have a five-year or $5 million project ahead. That's for the next generation, not me. But we did do the eco-friendly front lawn. So because this is a landmark building, basically not only the building itself, but also the grounds are part of that landmark. And the Landmark Commission required that we bring back a green lawn. And at the time, back in 2010, they had cement, almost hatchwork kind of cement pavers that were more cement than grass. So if we used that and you looked outside, you would see this almost like this grid of cement with little grass in between. This is the latest design, and this is the latest, I guess, scientifically, this is this could support a truck. So, but now it's made with modern material, which is recycled plastic, and it's 4-inch grids, 2-inch by 3-inch, locked into place and set on a bed of gravel and dirt. So it can withstand the weight of a truck, but allow grass to grow in between it. So there's a 2-inch, these 2-inch tiles or pavers house the soil and grass where this paving system protects the crown of the grass and allows the grass to grow without being crushed by the weight of cars or trucks. So we just finished installing that. We had a landscape designer design the landscape that goes around it, and right now we're working with a paving company to complete the paving that goes around this semicircular area here. This area here is called Grimes Hill. Is most people, who's from Staten Island here? A couple? Have you been here before? You have. Okay. This area on Staten Island is called Grimes Hill. It was named after Suzette Grimes, who was the wife of a governor back, I think, down in New Orleans. And they had some revolutionary history behind them. But that was the name of this area, Grimes Hill. Staten Island is full of hills. So you'll have Toad Hill, Grimes Hill, Ward Hill, things of that sort. And this was Grimes Hill. This road that you traveled on, Howard Avenue, was called Serpentine Road, and it got its name from the topography of Grimes Hill, which is filled with serpentine rock, which is great because it's good for, having a good foundation, but also great drainage. Staten Island is kind of plagued with this soil that's clay-like, so there's not much drainage that can go through clay, which was somewhat of a challenge for the work that we've done here, especially the parking lot. We had to basically remove the cap of clay so that the water that we received this morning, which normally would have flooded that area, goes through the grass and actually waters the grass, and it's great for the grass. Laura and Louis Stern had, I think, 4 children. They built the home next door here for their son and the home across the street for their daughter. And those homes still stand today. The home next door here is luckily preserved in such a way where they haven't upgraded the house that would offend a preservationist and change the look of the house. The house across the street, not so much. They've done some renovations and things like that, but still they exist and they're being used today residentially. This whole street was lined with beautiful mansions like the one that you're in now, and these two as well. We have Notre Dame across the street, whose original building was a mansion, and if you on your way out, if you look to the right, there is the high school that was a mansion at the time. And if you go in there, you'll see some of the fireplaces and some of the original elements there. I'll point out an area across the way here that is called Howard Circle now, but it was the location of the Horman Castle, which was this beautiful castle that was built by the owner of a brewery, which was down in Stapleton. Staten Island was settled by many German Lutherans, so we have a lot of German influence here on Staten Island. If you go to many of the cemeteries here on Staten Island, you'll see a lot of German names, but Staten Island was known for many breweries, mostly down in the Stapleton area. So they would build their beautiful homes up here, and they would have their work down in Stapleton. There was a tunnel that was actually built from the Horman Castle to Stapleton that actually connected the brewery to this gentleman's home. Unfortunately, like many of the mansions along this Serpentine Road, it kind of fell into disrepair. I'm sure many of you own homes, maybe historical homes, but the amount of money and effort to maintain these homes is tremendous. And if it wasn't for the grants and the fundraising and things of that sort, you saw what it takes to convert a residential home to commercial. So thank goodness we had the resources and were able to get the resources to bring this place back alive and open it up to the public. Like I said, the outside is landmark, the inside is not. But if you take a look around, all of this, all the woodwork that you see here is original. It has been restored to what you see now. It wasn't always in this condition. I'll point out the fireplace. There were some damage, moldings there, intricate carvings, and what we did was we had custom molds made and basically used we have some type of composite like a bondo, and medallions were recreated and put there, and I'm sure no one could see the carving versus the bondo that was there. So they did a great job there. The bar here, of course, is not original to the house. This was actually a fireplace mantle that Gina and I found that kind of matched the profile of the staircase. So we got that, and we had it custom made where it was split in the middle and then pushed to the side, and we had a carpenter bring them together. And the stone that you see there is a beautiful Italian stone that we received from one of our members, and it created a beautiful kind of fitting bar. So why don't we take a walk in here? And the first question I have, does anyone, I think it was an HBO series, The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Yes. Does anyone remember that show? Yes. They actually filmed why don't you make your way in here? Season 3, I think it's season 3, episode 2, or season 2, episode 3. But if you look back on that show, you will see Casa Belvedere prominently displayed, and it was filmed both outside and inside. It was the location of the mother's home estate in Oklahoma, and they actually had a green screen to create the Oklahoma oil fields. So Casa Belvedere is beautiful. It's unmistakable. If you've experienced it and you're shown a picture, yes, that's Casa Belvedere. So they have beautiful shots of Casa Belvedere from outside where it's Casa Belvedere. In here, they outfitted this as the receiving or living room. The wallpaper that you see and the window treatments that you see were from the filming of the show. They actually had an agreement with a wallpaper making company in London that when they needed wallpaper, they would submit their request and they would stop the presses and and make this wallpaper specifically for this show. And it's just unbelievable the amount of work that goes behind these shows and the historical history, research. So this is a wallpaper that existed back in the early 1900s. The historians on the project, on the movie, chose this wallpaper that was fitting for this room and had it made in London, and it was installed here. Now, at the end of the filming, they said we can bring this room back to the way it was, or we can leave the wallpaper. We asked them to leave the wallpaper as well as that. Yeah. So it was a help. So what you see here is the original plaster moldings, and of course all the original woodwork is here. It's been restored and regilded, similar to the fireplace. Custom molds were made. It's really a wonderful thing to recreate some of the moldings that were destroyed and missing here. So everything's been wonderfully restored, including the original plaster molding here. Now the ceilings are a different story. So as I said before, everything had to be upgraded to what is safe to have the public here. So you'll see that there's fire strobe lights. These little caps are the actual sprinkler systems. God forbid there was a fire, the water would come out there, the caps would come off, and it would, water would flow in here. Originally, of course, this was plaster, and they had beautiful medallion work on the ceiling. Rather than the 5-year plan, I was hoping to kind of revisit some of these spaces and maybe bring some of the original ornaments back to here. Today they have these wonderful replicas that we can do that. So there are companies that I can go through a catalog and I can look at historic pictures here and mimic that. So it's extremely difficult, and I'll explain that later, to repair original plasterwork, and extremely expensive. So now these plaster people are very rare, and when you do find them, they're extremely expensive. Okay, let's go inside here. So this room here,
photographic documentation so you know what it used to look like?
I'm gonna point that out now, and there's even more. So in the presentation, in the video, they touched upon Laura Stern's love of gardening and plants. She was one of the founders of the Staten Island Horticultural Club here on Staten Island. This room was used to have lunch with the ladies. So in the early 1900s, this Gilded Age, there was, just very wealthy people. And what do very wealthy people do is they like to show off their wealth. So this house was really, really showed off the wealth of Louis and Laura Stern. In these photographs, you'll see almost staged photos as though they were going to be presented in a magazine. I'll point out that this room used to have a terracotta floor with a drain in the middle. There was a fountain over there. There were beautiful lattice work here on the walls. Again, something that I would like to revisit and maybe recreate here, rather than the 10-year or 5-year plan. You'll see here, this is a photograph that was taken and was part of the presentation, and it was colorized. So here's where Laura would invite her friends or have meetings, and they would sit here and maybe go out to the garden here. This room here, you'll see some of that ceiling work that I'd like to recreate, but this was the furnishings of Louis and Laura Stern here in this room right next door here. And you'll see that they've also used some wallpaper that was there, and here's the original fireplace. But beautiful antiques there. Here's a view of the house, the way it would have been in 1908. The house was filled with this vine. This photograph was probably taken in the winter because the house was covered with this invasive vine, which still exists back in the grounds below. It has a beautiful flower. I did some research, and it was actually purposely grown to create these beautiful vine-covered homes, but it's mostly from the south. This is in the room we just left here. So Louis Stern was a silk merchant, and he would travel to the Far East and do a lot of traveling, and he would, of course, bring back antiques and beautiful artwork and things of that sort. So the house is kind of filled with all this beautiful stuff here. When I first arrived on the scene, this fireplace mantle that I pointed out here had this diamond shape here, and I always wondered what that was. And now, once we got these photographs, I know now it was for a deer head. The family that, there were only 3 owners of this house. The original owners, Stern, Gross family, who was a prominent builder here on Staten Island, and Gina Biancardi, or the Italian Cultural Foundation. So the Gross family, as soon as they bought the house, I heard that the mother said, remove that animal from the mantle. Unfortunately, Mr. Gross removed all the beautiful Tiffany chandeliers in the home and sold them off. So you won't see any original chandelier or light fixtures in the home. But again, with preservation in mind and with keeping with the look and feel and the spirit of the house, we basically chose light fixtures that are fitting for the house. Over here to the right, so beyond these trees, and you'll see it better on the second floor, is what is today the Howard Circle. It is a development that was made, and basically it's a cul-de-sac with a private road that goes down and it opens to this beautiful large area where multiple homes are. And that's kind of what they wanted to do here. So they wanted to basically tear down this house. Originally, they wanted to tear down this house and build homes all throughout this hill here. They immediately landmarked the house so that it couldn't be torn down. But they were, the gentleman, the Gross family, wanted to still continue to build over here, and they were going to do that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at things, Mr. Gross passed away. But while he was on his deathbed, his eldest son swindled his siblings out of their inheritance by having him sign over the house, having the father sign over the house to him. Well, the siblings didn't like that, and it caused a huge lawsuit, and the house basically stood still during this lawsuit. It was rented to various people, but it wasn't upkept. When I came here, there were probably a dozen garbage cans in the attic to catch the water that would fall from the roof, but the water intrusion to this house was so severe that, unfortunately, the second and third floors couldn't be saved. This was saved. There was some water damage down here. Downstairs was just your typical basement, just cement walls and huge furnace, but we'll go down and take a look at that. But, I kind of lost my train of thought. So the Gross family so that's why all of this was that's why the house fell into such disrepair. Horman Castle, I'm back on track. The Horman Castle here was huge, beautiful, carved. I mean, he brought craftsmen from Germany to build this house, this mansion, and it was a castle. But he died. It's just, it's a preservation's nightmare that once a house gets, to a certain point, it can't be saved. And it went through various ownership, and then, of course, a builder saw how beautiful the land was. He purchased it, tore it down, and built probably a dozen McMansions on that lot there. But Casa Belvedere, translated, is a house with a beautiful view. So everyone recognizes this beautiful view, and it makes this property and very valuable for a builder. You'll see over here, I don't know, I'm sure everyone came from this area here. There's a house that was originally the garage of this house next door. It was a beautiful little cottage that they converted into a small home. A builder bought that, and it just recently tore it down last week, and it's going to have some McMansion built there. And it's unbelievable because of this hillside. It's amazing how the builders can build a home where the land is almost like this, but they're able to dig into the land, create a foundation, and basically erect a home with basically no land around it. You're basically going to walk into this house, and I'm sure it'll be a big, beautiful house, but there's actually no land around it. But, and I'm amazed at what we've gone through, and we have, obviously, we abide by all the rules and regulations of Landmark, but I see things and shake my head and say, how could they do that? Only because I know what they put us through to make sure that we abide by all the rules and regulations. That being said, so that was Horman Castle. What do we have here? Let me see. So this is the room that we'll be going into next. But again, I just want to point out the carving, the wood carvings and things like that, and the original fireplaces. This is another shot of this room here, and that is a beautiful shot of the room that we just of the main hall there. This lower photograph is the original dining room, which has some beautiful features there that we'll take a look at. So again, everything that I spoke of in the other room kind of applies to this room, including the wallpaper. Again, everything has been restored. The fireplaces, they actually used them when they first arrived here, but we had them tested and they're really not safe to use. With gas, you still have to have the proper, we had a camera go up there. There's too many voids there, so we've decided not to do that. We may bring the main fireplace back to life, but we're still kind of unsure of that. This room actually was a library. The walls were lined with shelving and glass, beautiful glass doors. I'm not sure. I'm pretty confident it wasn't original to the house. They had cut into this woodwork here, and the house was built so, it's unbelievable how the attention to detail for this house was, and when you look at the craftsmanship of this house, seams that are still intact, that haven't been spread and things like that. So when we basically took apart that library, we saw that the woodwork was not of that level. So we feel as though that was done after the fact. So we had all this molding restored and rebuilt because they kind of really dug into that woodwork. So we wanted to restore and bring it back. By the way, the floors are not original to the house. The design of the floor is original to the house. I'm sure, again, people that own old homes know that, you know, there's only so many times you can sand and refinish a floor until you can't do it anymore. We got to that point maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and we had to have all the floors ripped up. And while we did that, we kind of reinforced the floor and then put all new flooring down. But we kept the original design to all the floors. And we'll go across here to the original dining room.
Is that when it went up, 1908?
1908 is when the house was built. So this was the original dining room of the home. I just want to close this door just to show off the craftsmanship here. So back in the Gilded years, servants were meant to serve and not be seen. So they had these hidden panels. The servants had their own staircase. So typically when the homeowners were in their living space, you really did not see the servants unless they were serving the homeowners. This is beautiful, hand-carved from Germany. You'll see some stained glass throughout this first floor. These are Tiffany. These were made by Tiffany. You'll see the Roebling emblem there, and that was made in the leaded glass. Of course, they're original. The windows below are not original, but again, were installed and approved by Landmark as being of the original design of the home. We had an antique dealer here once visiting, and I kind of gave him the $2 tour, and he said, I mentioned the Tiffany stained glass. He said, "Do you know that your tile work is also made by Tiffany?" I said, "I didn't realize that they made tile, but they did." And this beautiful glazed tile was made by Tiffany, and it complements this mantle as well. And of course, this is all original woodwork. The ceiling, however, is not original. It used to be original. We had a section, maybe a quarter of the room here. I'll show you. There's a doorway and a window above this area here that had this slow leak from water was penetrating there, and we didn't realize that occurred. One day, Robert was here. There was a table set here. It was before hours. This part of the ceiling came crashing down. The force of it broke the table, broke chairs. It was unbelievable. So obviously we had to have it repaired. So I had solicited some bids to repair it by recreating the original plaster. Enormously expensive. And they couldn't guarantee the rest of the ceiling would stay intact. So we have a master carpenter that is a member here that we use, and his work is just unbelievable. So this is a combination of flexible molding, which is like a resin composite, and wood. So the circles are this resin composite. All these squares are wood. This is a curved, you can see it's a curved ceiling. So this ceiling has been reconstructed to the original design, but it's made of all modern materials. All right. Marvelous Miss Maisel. Beautiful wallpaper here that we decided to keep.
So is all the wallpaper on this floor from
Yeah,
that production?
yeah.
Nice
And
job.
there's some borders there. You know, they've gone through the expense of hiring experts that know this time period and custom made this wallpaper. We don't want to compete with that. There's some movement as far as maybe brightening up the main hall there, but everything else we're definitely going to keep intact. So now what I think we'll do is we'll take a quick walk downstairs. I want to show you what we did downstairs, and then we'll go up to the second floor. How are we doing on time?
Was that always the kitchen next door?
That was, yeah, so that was the kitchen. I think it was pictured, definitely was pictured in the presentation. And before we leave, we'll take a walk into there just to show you what we do, what we've done there. We have a presentation or a teaching kitchen there now where we do all our cooking classes there. A few years back, maybe about 4 years back, I was working in my office. That little cottage in the back is my office. And there was a couple of women that were walking on the grounds, and we were closed at the time, and I kind of offered my assistance to them. And it turned out that the elderly woman that was with them was here as a child and knew the house, and they were actually some type of relatives to this home, and now they live in Colts Neck, New Jersey, right? And I'm sure many Staten Islanders visit their location, Delicious Orchards. So they're actually relatives of the people that lived here. And one of the maids that worked here went with them when the Gross family bought the house, and this person had no place to go. They brought her to their home in New Jersey, and she had all these wonderful photo albums, and she said, "We don't know what to do with these photo albums. Do you have any interest?" I said, "Oh my God, yes. Those photos that you see over there were from her collection." So it was unbelievable that we were able to get those photos. So the point of that was, this used to be a closet. So she remembered as a child playing on this floor and hiding in this closet. So we converted this to a staircase that goes down to the lower level. Just watch your step coming down here.
Did the Stearns have any grandkids?
Yes, but everyone kind of moved away, and they actually had a family reunion here a number of years ago. And it was through this woman that I had met that was walking around on the grounds that we made the connection, and they usually have a family reunion elsewhere, and we offered them to have it here. So I think Laura's father was a Mefetzel, and he was the founder of Staten Island Academy here. And if you're familiar with Staten Island, that's on Toad Hill Road. So there's a tie there. So every time they have a reunion, they visit Staten Island Academy as well as Casa Belvedere. And I guess this is a good time to say, just give you an idea of how Gina structured the foundation. So the owners of this building and these grounds are a foundation. So it's a board of governors or board of directors that basically manage this property. She thought that the best way to make sure that this foundation exists beyond her years would be to establish a foundation that kind of mimicked Terrasegno, the Columbus Italian Foundation in Manhattan, where they have another entity that kind of supports financially the existence of this foundation. So the idea of this private dining club came to her through these already existing foundations that are successful and have lasted for many years. Many foundations, unfortunately, die with their founder. So she wanted to make sure that, I get a little choked up. It lives on beyond us. For our children or our grandchildren. So that's why we have this formation. So as long as the private dining club that covers our operating expenses exist, we will stay here forever. So we make sure that our members are happy as far as keeping that aspect alive, but we're able to promote the Italian culture here in such a way that it's just enjoyable for the entire community. And, we bring life back to this house. All right. My brother and I made this bar. I always have to point that out. So with this used to be your typical basement. So the furnace was as big as this bar. It was like an octopus. So did you have a question?
Were these barrels down here?
No. They removed that furnace, and they actually had to excavate 2 feet in order to get this headroom down here. And beyond the ceiling is a lot of utilities as far as sewer lines and electric lines and things. So you can imagine everything that's going on upstairs has to make its way down here. There's the electrical panel, the sewer line runs under here and things like that. As far as this room, everything is multi-purpose. We have cultural programs here where we have a children's art program that we conducted here last night. While there was a McMahon fundraiser going on the main floor. So this has their own separate entrance here. So we're able to kind of multi-function here. Typically, the foundation conducts their programs on a Monday and Tuesday throughout the day and night. And we do have some night programs on the upper floors after that. This room was actually excavated. This used to be just a foundation wall here, but that what we call the Verrazano room that we were upstairs with all those beautiful windows, this is below that. So we call this the Bacco Wine Bar. During the week when the restaurant is in full operation, there could be a private event going on upstairs, and the members would be dining down here, and vice versa. So there could be but typically the primary area for the dining is on the main floor. But again, when that's occupied, the members will have here. It's a little casual, more of a casual look, certainly not original to the house, but a kind of a nod to Italy as far as Italian kind of bistro modern look. All right, we're going to take a quick walk around here. I know some of you have left your jackets upstairs, but it's just a short walk around here, and we'll make our way upstairs. So this is a prime example of our struggles with an antique home, or with a landmark home. This was lovingly restored 10 years ago. Since we've restored it, we've had to correct this soffit area and make it more waterproof, but you could even see some of the woodwork is starting to fail, and I'll have our carpenter out here replacing and restoring that area. So it's just a constant struggle to keep everything going. We had a family of pigeons, maybe a generation of pigeons, because every year we had more and more pigeons, and they love to kind of perch and nest in there. So I had to hire a company to kind of create these areas and cover them to stop the pigeons from nesting up there. As you saw in the video, there to our left here is the bocce courts, and people love bocce. So we have a spring league, a summer league, a fall league, and if we could play in the winter, we probably would, but
We're trying to get them to build an enclosure,
Yeah.
a heated enclosure, because
Yeah.
we're dying to play. We miss
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump in. It's so phenomenal that sometimes we're as many as 200 people. Usually play on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and up to 200 people over those nights of playing. And we play for about 8 or 9 weeks, and then it leads to a playoff. It's a lot of fun, and then we have a dinner to complete the season upstairs on the second floor. So it's been a wonderful community relations type of activity that brings people here on a regular basis.
And there's a camaraderie that's built here that people feel, you know, it's a sense of belonging to a place that people come together and preserve tradition as well as memories and things of that sort. There's some people that are no longer with us that their families come to us and say, you know, you've created such a beautiful place here, and we're so proud to be part of it, and that my parents were able to enjoy it, and we love coming here.
My way of expressing that has always been, Gina has created a beautiful mansion that makes us feel like we're back in Grandma's basement. And it's a special feeling when you're among people that can share those memories, even though we're in a much more elegant location than Grandma's basement. Anyway.
All right, we'll take a quick walk around here. So again, Casa Belvedere, house with a beautiful view. This kind of says it all. We try to convince people from Manhattan to come to Staten Island and enjoy Casa Belvedere. We cannot get them here. We get a couple of people here and they go back and spread the good word, because you have to be here to experience this beautiful view. And I'm so grateful that the weather's cooperating where we can come back here and see this view. If you read any historical books on this area, they always reference the view from Serpentine Road or Howard Avenue as being just this beautiful view. We have photographs of this view where there's nothing here. There's no bridge. The shoreline is just trees, and it's just this majestic, beautiful view. And you can imagine back in 1908 what this view was. And I referenced the breweries. So the breweries are down the hill. This is Stapleton, what you see here. That peak there is it Bailey Seton Hospital? Bailey Seton, right? Bailey Seton Hospital, which is close to Bay Street down there. You have the Irby over there to the left. But one of the beautiful things is a lot of people, me included, started off in Brooklyn and came to Staten Island. I did it when I was 5 years old, but so many people stand here and just point to different areas where they lived or where they worked, and it's just a beautiful thing where people can come here and kind of re-experience things from the past.
If anyone's from Brooklyn and you follow my finger directly across, I can see it, Fort Hamilton High School, which is on 84th Street and Shore Road.
So back here we had this beautiful, iconic beech tree, and it was known as an estate tree, I've learned, where the owners of a home would plant a tree that they knew would become enormous, but it would complement their estate. And that 70-foot estate tree, 150 years old, was here until a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know if you remember, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had heavy, heavy rains on a Wednesday night. It was right before Halloween. And Thursday was coupled with tremendous winds. This area here, you could stand in the front of the house and come to the back of the house, and the wind is twice as strong back here. The house kind of almost stops the wind from going. It's almost like a wind tunnel that comes here. So you could picture a tree from here, 70 feet tall, and it had almost like a mushroom shape, very common in Europe. You have this beautiful mushroom-shaped tree. So the wind just uprooted this tree, and it came crashing down on our very expensive HVAC machines here, and the fence, and it kind of brushed up against the house. But thank goodness none of the windows were broken. You know, this enclosure was destroyed, but it's part of, right? Part of owning a house, with these unexpected expenses and things. So we're kind of trying to recover from this. We had the insurance company here the other day. We restored heat and air conditioning to the building, but it was so unfortunate because this tree was here. If you look at some of the early photos, you can actually see a small tree back here from back in 1908. So we estimate this tree to be about 150 years old. The hole is the size of the root that was there. So it's a 6-foot diameter of a tree. I was heartbroken.
The foundation wasn't affected.
No, not one branch broke off of this tree. It just uprooted and tipped over. You know, it broke a couple of tiles here, but no damage to the house, thank goodness.
Is that your office back there?
That's my office there. So back in the early 1900s, you had horses and cars. So that little rectangular window there used to be a garage door, larger than that, and then the front door used to be the barn door. So the horses went in the barn, the car was parked in the garage to the left, and there was a cow underneath. I just want to point out the Nono's garden is all the way to the left there. And you can have a rear view of the house next door, which belonged to Mr. Stern's son. So Nono's garden, fully staffed with a volunteer staff that they love coming here and tend to the garden. And it's, again, preserving the tradition of your typical Italian garden. And it's a source of socialization and camaraderie with the volunteers. They love coming here. One of the classic things in an Italian garden is squash or zucchini, and having stuffed squash blossoms is a staple in many Italian homes. They grow so many that they actually supply the restaurant here with squash blossoms and 2 other restaurants. And they're able to sell them actually for $1 each, and they're beautiful, fresh, large zucchini flowers that once they're picked, you only have a certain amount of time to serve them. So to have a garden right out here and to serve them here is just a delight, and they're delicious, and they're able to raise enough money to make a substantial donation to a food bank here, very close. Our Lady Good Counsel has a food bank here that we support. And whatever money they raise, the foundation matches. So it's a nice, generous donation to a local food bank. All right, here's a rear shot of the house. We're actually going to go to the 2nd floor, and we'll enjoy the view from the 2nd floor balcony.
The tree that fell, was it like this one?
No, this is I think a lurch or a larch tree. This was a beech tree.
Okay.
And we had two very similar trees in the front of the house that fell to a beetle. There was some type of disease where a beetle destroyed those trees. But this tree was magnificent. And we have beautiful alfresco dining here, and we have, again, open to the public, music events. We have Musica Sotto le Stelle, which is music under the stars, as well as Cinema Sotto le Stelle, which is movies under the stars. We erect a huge movie screen here, right in the grass, and everyone sits here, almost auditorium style, and we watch usually an Italian-themed movie with this beautiful background here. So and we do that in the summer. So if anyone wants to come back during the summer, and I hope everyone's on our mailing list, we have wonderful programs here. But as far as the musica, we have live performance and a la carte dining here. But that tree was always in every picture. All right. All right, so if you were paying attention, you know that this level was the level where the family lived. This was all the bedrooms. Not all the bedrooms, because the servants had bedrooms upstairs. So again, back in 1908, most homes were equipped with outhouses. They didn't even have indoor plumbing or indoor toilets. This house had a full body shower, his and her bathroom, and as well as dressing rooms. Again, very wealthy people. So what we had to do here is we had to put, you'll see these kind of headers that go along the building, within the interior of the building. The chimney is behind this pillar here. These were headers that were installed from the exterior wall through and supported by the chimney there and across this way, and basically we were able to remove all the interior walls here. Again, this floor was absolutely destroyed, and we had to basically rip everything out, floor, ceilings, everything. I mean, some of the pictures are unbelievable where you could see right through the house because both the floor and the ceilings were removed. Everything was kind of brought up to code. The windows and doors here are original. Unfortunately, during the demolition process, which occurred back in 2010 because they had to remove all the asbestos and things and make it safe, the original fireplace mantles kind of walked off the property. I was able to locate these mantles that were pulled out of a mansion upstate, and the mansion upstate was early 1900s. So not original, but somewhat original as far as an antique. Our master carpenter was able to build this surround. Behind here is a TV screen. So it acts as a mirror, but it's almost a two-way mirror. So when we have programs, we can hook up a computer and it'll show over here as well as the other one here. You know, when we have our movies and the weather does not cooperate in the summer, we have a screen that comes down and a projector over here. So instead of setting up the chairs outside in the screen, we would come up here. Where in the past we would have to cancel those programs. Here's the beautiful view that you wouldn't be able to see if that beech tree was there. So I guess the silver lining is you have a beautiful view.
So all the fireplaces on this floor came from somewhere else?
Yes.
That one too?
Yep.
You did a good job though.
Yeah. And here's a funny story.
You talk. When you're ready, have half of this group come up the elevator.
Okay.
Okay. I'll meet you at the elevator on the third.
The funny story is that this surround, this full body shower was lined in marble. And during the demolition, that didn't walk off the site because they were a ton. And during the renovation, we would have to move them from one place to the other. And the workers would be like, Jim, what are we doing with this marble? Why are we moving this from here to there? I said, don't worry, I'll figure out a place where we can use it. All the fireplace surrounds were now, I reused it and they're all used for this purpose. I think it's my Italian background. I'm one of 11 children. Nothing was ever thrown away in my house. So I get it from my mom. That's why I have trouble throwing away anything. So we were able to reuse that. You know, and again, all the light fixtures were meant to kind of complement the age of the house. You know, here's a nod to Italy. These are Venetian glass light fixtures that we had imported from Italy.
The water leak that we saw on the lower floor, where did that happen on here, on this floor? Where the ceiling came down?
That's the this doorway is the same on the other side, and that's where the water had intruded there. But we had water intrusion throughout this floor, before it was restored. I don't know if anyone wants to brave the cold again, but just to get, I call downstairs the $1 million view, and this is the $2 million view. So, some of the pigeons are still here, so just watch your step.
Oh, I think it's $1 billion. Really nice.
And again, that tree kind of blocked a lot of the view, but here it's almost like a 360 view now. And I just want to point out to the right there, because you could see it better, is that Howard Circle area. So those homes there beyond this larger tree here was all one property with a beautiful castle that towered, just as those houses do, that towered that area, and it overlooked this beautiful vista over here. While we're up here, I wanted to point out the glazed terracotta tile that was used as a decorative element. So the house is designed in an Italianate arts and crafts style. So it's a kind of a combination of two different styles. This exterior timbers here is that arts and crafts, whereas the rest is kind of Italianate. The roof tile is original and has been restored. That's Spanish barrel tile, they call it. To the right there, that's that extension that we spoke about. That's the elevator stair tower, which had to be built in the same style as the house. We didn't have to use glazed terracotta tile, but you'll see we mimicked it with the stucco. All the gutter work is copper and mimics the original copper work of the original house. These Juliet balconies here, the ironwork there was restored and reinstalled. What you're standing on now is fiberglass. Believe it or not, during the demolition of this floor, what they used back in the day in 1908 to waterproof was almost like a cheesecloth with tar, and that's what we were pulling off the wall here. Years and years of attempts to stop water leakage through here created almost a 4-inch thick layer of tar. Everything had to come off here. Everything. The walls were all destroyed. This is now made. The top is fiberglass. The walls are that composite called veranda. It's not wood, but it's impervious to any type of weather. And this railing had to be approved by Landmark, which you see mimics the same style of the Juliet balcony. So again, in order to have people out here, we have to basically abide by the code, which this railing is code.
Everything on the walls has a story. Here's the board that talks about Caruso singing on Staten Island. 1987, the United States created a stamp for Caruso, okay? And a commendation from the president at the time, Ronald Reagan. Those of you that are Staten Islanders will see some of the previous borough presidents that honored Aldo Mancusi. But this has an interesting story here. Caruso was also a very talented artist. He was a caricaturist. And among his caricatures was this is an original. This is Mayor John Hyland of Highland Boulevard. So, come. So, the gallery is relatively small. A few of us will go in a moment, but there's two important portraits here. A portrait of Enrico Caruso, which I found in the museum in Brooklyn. And then Gina had this commission. This is the gentleman who put the original Caruso Museum in place. This is Aldo Mancusi, who ultimately became a commendatore in the Italian government. So, come in.
So we want to take this group here, and then I'll bring the rest over.
Okay, okay. Come on in. So you can take a look. Come on in and see. His original personal belongings, even the knife and spoon where he ate at the Hotel Knickerbocker. When Caruso was alive, he was very popular, so many products wanted his endorsement. So you'll see Caruso pasta, Caruso wine, Caruso cookies, cigars, and all kinds of various things here. This wall represents just one of his characters. He was famous for playing the Duke in Rigoletto. He performed it over 17 years, which is very unusual for a tenor. Usually as they age and the voice darkens, they move away from that role. These are Caruso costumed in different opera houses. This is a costume that he wore in one of the performances. Let's see what else. Of course, Caruso was also very much part of the beginnings of the recording industry. So the story goes, what came first, Caruso or the record player? They actually came together at the same time. And I'm going to play for you. I'm going to play on this machine, which is a 1906 Victor machine made for playing his recordings. Totally mechanical. Wind it up to play. The Met was his main house of performance. So he would dress himself up like that and walk on Fifth Avenue, you know, like the Easter Parade.
Where was he from in Italy?
Naples.
Naples.
I need you to hear him. So if the neighbor on the second floor complained, we just, you know, put the volume control back in.
He
Yes.
probably called it Napoli.
Of course. And he was born there. He was trained there. He was a natural singer. He did some training there. And he had a bad experience early in his career when he sang at the San Carlo Opera House. And he wasn't well received. So he walked away from the San Carlo and vowed never to sing there again. And his famous statement was, I'll go back to Napoli for a dish of pasta, but never to sing at the San Carlo Opera House. This is our dear and beloved friend Aldo Mancusi. When he was in Brooklyn, this was his museum in Brooklyn, and he regularly gave lectures there. So I keep him with us because this is really his creation. We have really some very exclusive artifacts. This is a score that Caruso himself used to study the role of Radames in Aida, and we know that because it was given to us by his grandson. And there are markings in this book. Caruso put the markings in where he was to sing his part. So we have this original score. This is a program from 1919 celebrating the 25th anniversary of his career. Not at the Met, but his singing career. And when we had the grand opening, his great-grandson came and presented us. It's silver, so you know what happens with silver. We really need to get it polished. But he presented us with this gift, which was given to Caruso by the orchestra of the Metropolitan Opera House on the 25th anniversary of his career. So we sort of treasure this. These are personal artifacts, personal belongings of Caruso. His shoes, his pipe, his ties. This is jewelry that was given to his first lady in his life. She was never his wife because she was previously married. So in Italy, there was no divorce in those days, but he lived with Anna Giacchetti, had 2 children with her. And then he came to New York and wound up marrying a socialite. So you want the storyline, you'll watch the movie with Mario Lanza called The Great Caruso. The other great role for Caruso, the Duke and Rigoletto, but of course Pagliacci over here. So there's lots of things regarding Pagliacci. This is an original photograph, but originally signed by Caruso to the publisher of this. La Follia de New York was among the first Italian magazines for the immigrant population. So you'll actually see this caricature, which Caruso drew himself. He was a phenomenal caricaturist. There are books with lots of his caricatures. So he just loved doing these things. They're not as pretty in the book as they are in the originals, but the story goes that when Caruso first arrived in New York, he was met at the pier by a number of prominent Italian Americans, one of whom was Marziale Sisca, the publisher of La Follia de New York. He also was from Napoli, and when they met, they became immediate friends. And I don't know how soon after that first meeting, they went out for dinner. And while they were at dinner, Caruso, on a napkin, drew a caricature of the gentleman that he was having dinner with. And the gentleman looked at it and he says, "My God, Caruso, you're not only a great singer, you're a great artist." He says, you like? Ultimately, Caruso drew caricatures once a week for this publication for many, many years. So there are hundreds and hundreds of caricatures that he did for that newspaper. So you can see the iconic Pagliacci figure. So it's here, it's there, it's on the record covers. There's some original photographs of Caruso as Pagliacci. I gotta fix this thing. That's his walking cane. There's just a lot of things. Aldo could give you a story of everything he'd put his hand on. He can give you a half-hour story. So we just have a few of the things, but we have the more prominent things, including the costume, the record player with some original recordings, the personal artifacts.
Where did the other? You said it was broken up. The collection.
Yes, I worked with his daughter, and we got the things sent to. Interestingly, someone purchased the birth home of Caruso in Naples, and they created a small museum there. So we sent about 100 pieces to them, and they're on permanent display. The second place is the Sarasota Opera in Sarasota, Florida. They have a number of things in their lobby. And the third place is in Philadelphia. There's something called the History of Italian Immigration Museum. And they got a big chunk of stuff, which they have prominently displayed. And the fourth location is here at Casa Belvedere. And this is where Aldo was so happy to bring those artifacts, because he loved Gina Biancardi, they loved each other, and they found out that their families came from the same town. So that was an interesting thing. So again, I don't call it a museum; it's a gallery. Thank God I have the wall space in the corridor. You may want to go back and take a look at some of that, because it's very interesting. And then this is the second part of the third floor. As soon as Jimmy comes out, we'll swap over, okay?
So if you were paying attention again, maybe I should give a quiz. This was the level where the servants lived. So there were 2 bathrooms here, one for the guys, one for the women. I think there was one here and one here. And a small narrow hallway that came through the center. It was almost like a dormitory style set up here for the servants. And the servants would basically get kicked out sometimes when the family had relatives coming in from Europe, and the relatives would stay up here, and the servants would either I think they had, modest accommodations in the basement, as well as the garage barn, what we call the cottage now. But this level here, one of the challenges of having a foundation and restoring a home of this size is finances, and how do you come up with the money to build or to restore things like this. And this was totally rebuilt. I mean, basically the floors were taken out, the ceilings were taken out. Each beam, each of these floor joists had to be reinforced with another beam and leveled at the same time, and then a subfloor and then this flooring be put on. Again, everything is fire safety, everything has sprinklers installed here. But we basically ran out of money. We could not finish the restoration of these two levels. And Gina, being the unbelievable businesswoman that she is, came up with an idea to have a level of membership that would basically become a source of revenue. So now we have an ambassador level membership, which is your top donors. So the people that either bought into this level or generously donated money during this process, during our capital campaign, are members of this level. So this level is both members enjoy either pre-dinner drinks up here, post-dinner drinks up here, or just come up here just to relax and have drinks with a couple of friends. So, it's a special room, but again, it all has a meaning and a purpose. And the purpose was to both, say thank you to these generous members, but also raise enough money so that we could finish the restoration of this floor as well as the lower floor.
Where's the wallpaper from?
That's funny, because the other people asked as well. So you know how you start with one thing and everything kind of branches from there? Gina saw this wallpaper years ago and said, this is the wallpaper I'd love to have. And everything grew from there. So all the blues that you see in here were kind of born from the wallpaper. All the gold accents are from the wallpaper. So, this was a great idea that we saw in a restaurant once. And this is actually, if it were true, it would be gilded gold leaf ceiling. And gold leaf is paper like gold leaf, gold here, and you would put it on with the soft brush and glue. But this is actually wallpaper that we had imported from somewhere, where we were able to do this. And unfortunately, when they were installing this mirror, they nicked the ceiling. I still have to get some glue and maybe do that. But this is all very new. Like I said earlier, the servants had their own staircase. The staircase went downstairs from this level all the way down to the kitchen. So again, cook could cook, do what they have to do, and come up their own staircase and come live here and not disturb or be observed by the owners of the house. We have wonderful members here that donate money, time, labor, equipment, things like that. So it's a great base to have a project like this, especially Staten Island, where there's so many builders on Staten Island. So Carlos Seneca generously donated his team of construction workers to restore or to renovate the second and third floor here. So the foundation had to come up with the money for all the beautiful finishes and the material, but he would install them. But he did have some requirements. One was we had to purchase this table. We went shopping with him and he said, this is beautiful. You gotta get, and I'm like, Carlo, it's like $15,000. He said, I'll talk to the guy, we'll get it cheaper, whatever. So $12,000. When I'm looking at every penny for the wallpaper and this and looking at that, but he was so generous. I mean, if you had to put a price tag on it, I'm talking, $750,000. I mean, almost $1 million. I wouldn't even doubt it was $1 million. So because he had teams of people working here for a year, stripping everything. Remember, these were floors, these were rooms that were built, in various different ways. Everything had to come down. All the floor rafters had to be, by design, an engineer had to be sistered with another modern beam and take across from end to end, and then everything had to be leveled. So we were walking on planks and seeing the floor beneath. That's how bare everything was. And he was able to, have these teams of people do it. And the other side was this. I mean, if you research this mirror, so it's antique something or other or whatever, and it has a beautiful gold finish to it and hue to it. Very expensive. I forget how much it was. But he said, you got to get the table, you got to get the mirror. There you go. You don't have to give me a dime for the $1 million of labor I donated, but I insist you get the table and the mirror.
How many ambassador level members do you have?
We have various different levels. So the Renaissance level, we have, I would say, about less than 100, and that is a cultural membership, we call it. So you get discounts to a lot of the programs that we offer, but it's an opportunity for people, the community, to make a donation to a foundation that they believe in, whether they use it or not. $200 or $250 a year, or $500 for a family, but that kind of gives you somewhat of a membership to what we do here. And if you frequent the programs that we offer here, it kind of pays for itself through the minimal fees that we charge for these programs. Then we have a Baco level membership, as well as what we call a Belvedere level membership, which is basically the same. The Baco is for young professionals, for people under 40, and the Belvedere membership is a membership for everyone, and that gives you full access to the private dining club. In part, some of the perks of that is basically that you're allowed to dine here, and also if you have a function here, a birthday party, a graduation party, a retirement party, you don't pay any additional fees. Whereas if you were not a member here, you would pay what they call a facility fee to have something here. And that was kind of by design, but it was a requirement here as well. You can't build a commercial property in a residential area. So, take care. So part of it was that you could build a private business here, with a private offering. So you kind of overcome that restriction as far as building a commercial space in this area. So basically, it kind of fell into what Gina wanted to do as far as having a private dining club similar to Tiroseno and other successful foundation and clubs that are in the city. So it all kind of works, and then there's the ambassador level, which is this level where people either pay into this level, which is a $10,000 donation, or you're one of those people like Carlos Seneca who have donated so much to the foundation, and this is kind of like a thank you. But it served its purpose as far as raising enough money to finish the renovations here. Fate had it that that we're here today and this house has been preserved. My involvement was I was dating Gina for a couple of years, and I would help her with overseeing some construction work. I have a background in computers and accounting, so I was helping her with that. And I became more and more involved with that, and I was just like, honey, I have a full-time job. I can't work 8 hours there and come back home and work another 8 hours, so, you know, I can't continue this. So she responded, so quit your stupid job and join me in making something beautiful. So, you know, I had gotten out of a 25-year marriage. I was newly divorced. This is my first girlfriend. You know, and I'm like, do I quit my job and move in with this woman and put all my eggs in one basket? And you know my decision. You know, I held off for another year or so, and then I kind of gave in. But this is my passion as well. My passion is, you know, restoration and woodwork and things like that. So I may be a little heavy on the preservation end of this conversation, but Gina's passion for the Italian American community and you know, preserving the Italian American heritage, that's her passion, and together we make a great team in creating a place, you know, where many people can come.